Hi, everyone. This is Barb Bruno. I'm so glad you're here. Yes, our PowerPoint, I felt like I had a ghost playing with my PowerPoint slides this morning. But before I start my program today, what I want to do is welcome you, but I also want to let you in on something that you might not know about me, even if we've met before. Over 50% of my time right now is spent not only speaking to owners of staffing and recruiting firms like you, but I'm in front of your clients and I'm in front of your prospects and I'm in front of top talent. And I've done this intentionally. And the reason I've done this intentionally is because I think I could do more for us if I'm in front of our end users. So when I'm called, I'm speaking more to, CEO conferences, to manufacturing conferences, to IT events. I just got back from a medical conference, and the CEO conference is always very interesting. And it's interesting also because every week I'm training job seekers. I'm training the candidates that you're trying to attract in place. And the interesting part is they don't know who I am. I do these weekly calls for job seekers. I have roughly 12 to 1,500 job seekers on these calls every week. And because they don't know who I am, they really open up to me. So I hear the unfiltered truth. What makes them ignore your outreach? Why do they feel that we ghost them? Why do they get frustrated or just lose interest? And on the flip side, I hear what pushes clients to switch the firms they're using, to stop responding, or really question whether they're getting real value from you and I. And that kind of honest, behind the scenes insight is really what helps me update my training constantly because it changes everything. And it's exactly what trains, what I share with you. And again, today's training is not going to be fluff. I'm going to give you some real world strategies that reflect what's actually happening out there right now. On top of this, I have created 18 courses for LinkedIn Learning. And so I'm on a call once a month where I have access to a lot of their data analytics. And so some of it I can share, some of it I can't, but they know I'm a trainer. And so I always say, can I share that? Is this for public? Can I do this from the podium? Can I share this with my training clients? And most of it I can. And I also regularly check in with two trusted economists I've been following for years to just help my clients stay ahead of what's coming down the road. And it's interesting because I don't know if all of you are aware, but the overall job market posted unexpectedly strong gains in March. No one expected this, but the overall job market posted unexpectedly strong gains in March. But so why am I conducting this session for you right now? It's because many of the firms I work with just wrapped up a record-breaking first quarter. But I've done 7 conferences in the last 6 weeks, and I'm listening to other owners that are struggling and really very scared because job orders, revenue, and profits are significantly decreased. And so, what is causing that gap? Why are some firms flourishing while other firms are struggling right now? And that's what I'm going to dig into today. You're going to walk away with practical, proven ideas that you can use right away, not just to keep up, but to pull ahead. I want you to be one of those firms that start enjoying record profits. And the other thing I want to say to all of you, we're in the second quarter of this year. There's only one quarter down. I can share with you that there is no reason why you can't hit or surpass goals for 2025. And so, and another piece of advice, stop listening to the news. Stop watching the news, stop reading it. If you've got trusted economists, there's only 2 economists that I listen to. And if I listened to the news, I would be like Chicken Little thinking the sky is falling. It's not. It's not. There are so many good things going on right now. And so I just want all of you to realize that whatever happened in the first quarter is over. I want you to look at the year with a very positive attitude because again, you're an owner, you're a leader, you're a manager, you're someone who sets the pace. And if your team senses for a moment that you're uneasy, they're just going to follow your lead. And it's up to you and I to always be the most motivated person in our organization. And so let's talk about, why you're in the right place. You're actually in the right place, in the right business right now if you want to grow your business, strengthen your team, and improve your bottom line. And what I love about yours and my profession, if you told me 30 years ago I would be in the same profession, I would say there's not a chance. because I like things to change. I like things that are new. But you and I both know so much has changed. If you haven't really revamped the way you're running your business, even in the last 6 to 12 months, chances are you're losing out on potential clients and you're losing out on candidates right now because they continue to change. And I've never seen change happen so fast in my life. I've been doing this for over 30 years, and things are changing faster now than I ever remember them at any other time in history. But I'm telling you right now, it's a great time to do what you and I are doing because again, so many firms are breaking records this first quarter. In fact, I had an owner that I've been working with. He doubled his first quarter this year over last year's numbers. He doubled, and so if that's not your reality, I want you to really pay attention to what I'm going to be sharing with you today, because I'm going to give you some specific things you can do that are going to make all the difference in your business. The real questions are, did your firm surpass goals, in the first quarters of this year? Let's see. Oh, there goes my PowerPoint again, acting crazy. Sorry about this. My PowerPoint slides are just crazy right now. Hold on a second here. Sorry about this. Oh, goodness. Okay, let's go here. Let's see. Okay, I don't know why this is short. Hold on one second, everybody. Sorry about this. Okay, so the question is, did your company hit or surpass your profit goals in the first quarter of this year? And if you did not, what adjustments have you made? Because every time I'm talking to someone, like I talked to an owner this morning. In fact, I invited him to come on this call because he was so frustrated with what happened in the first quarter of his business, and he's been in business 22 years and they were just flat. And so I said, so what are you doing different going forward? And he goes, well, it's not my business, it's the economy, it's what's going on. I go, no, it's not. Like, I want you to really stop and think. If you didn't hit your goals in the first quarter of this year, you've got to make adjustments because what you're doing is not working. So, you've got to figure out, what do we need to do? And never erase a goal. If you erased goals in the first quarter of this year, or if you erase a goal any month, what you're telling your people is the goals aren't real. You cannot afford to ever erase a goal. And the best thing you could do for your company and everybody that works for you is go back to January of this year and look at, what did each person that works for you, what did they set as their goals? And then what did they actually achieve? And if you have some people that did not achieve their goals, what I want you to do is take the difference, look at January, February, and March. What were the goals and what was the actual production? And if they didn't hit their goals, then subtract the amount that they produced from what they said they were going to do and divide it by 9. There's 9 months left in the year. You do not want your team to give up their goals in the first quarter of this year. When your team sets their goals, I hope you all know what everybody that works for you wants to earn. I hope that they have their goals posted, because as an owner, I want to know what my people are trying to achieve. When I'm doing contests, when I'm doing anything to try to help my team motivate themselves, it has to be for their reasons, not my reasons. And I'm speaking to you now, owner to owner. Our people are not going to produce more because we need to cover overhead. Our people are not going to produce more because you and I want them to, or we want a record year. Your team is only going to get out of their comfort zone and do things differently and make changes if they can see how it's going to benefit them and the people they love. And that's why it's so important that you have to know exactly, what does everybody working for you want to earn? And then if they earn that, what does that mean for them and the people that they love? Because in reality, people that work in our profession, I always call us social workers who like money. We want to help people. We want to make a difference. We want to make a mark, but we also want to earn good money. And if you don't know what a person wants to earn, then how are they even setting the goals for 2025? And so hopefully the goals that they set were based on the money they want to earn. Don't let them give up those income goals. And now is the best time to sit down with everybody that works for you after the first quarter and say, hey, okay, this is what we did. This is what you wanted to do. It's my job to make sure you earn what you want to earn this year so you can achieve the goals you've set. So we're going to take the numbers that were produced, we're going to subtract that from your goals, divide it by 9, and I'm here to back you. I'm here for us to make changes together so that you can attain the money you're going to earn. Because if your people are not hitting goals and not making the money they want to earn, they're going to leave. They're going to leave. And it's hard to find a really good person in our profession. But as an owner, I know I have to constantly change things. In fact, when I hire somebody, I go, how do you adapt to change? And if they say, well, I'm not that good at it, I go, well, we continually change. And so you've got to hire people that are going to adapt to change. And how have you adapted your sales and your recruiting approach to keep up with what's going on? And the one thing I'm hearing, I just got back from a huge conference, and the recruiters are also afraid that AI is going to replace them. No, it's not. The last two courses I did for LinkedIn Learning, I just got back from California in early March, and I did two more courses for them. And the courses were on how is AI changing recruiting, hiring, retention? How is it changing what you and I do for a living? And it was interesting because there were two AI experts out in California at the exact same time I was recording my course. So I was talking to them, and these are people that are in the middle of it. They're the ones that are creating, these AI tools and that. And we all agreed that when it comes to recruiting, there's still that human element that is so critical. All AI does is make us more efficient, and so how are you leveraging AI to remain competitive? Because it can take away those tasks that are not best use of the team's time. I always say to people, what is best use of your time? What's the 20% of what you do that gives you 80% of your results? Do you know what yours is as an owner? What is best use of your time? The best use of your time often is, well, being here today, you're showing me that you're that type of owner that realizes, okay, I've got to constantly make changes. What do I have to do? Or you wouldn't be here today. And so, the people that always come to my calls, those are always the people that are cutting edge. They want to know what's going on there. They're trying to set their business up to make sure that everybody works for them is succeeding. And that's yours and my job. Our job is to inspire. Our job is to lead. If I have some managers on the phone, I hope that you're doing away with the titles of manager and owner and president. We're all leaders, and leaders inspire others to do better. And again, if your team's not hitting their goals and you're not changing anything, and if they keep doing things the same way this month, don't depend on the economy to change or clients to change or candidates to change so that everybody's job is going to be easier. The only thing that we can change is the way that we're doing, the way that we're interacting with people. And so, in fact, I wrote an article today on LinkedIn, and my article was about just taking accountability. Like, what can we do different? What can we change out there? Because there's many things that we can do that can give you better results, And so what really has changed and what's at stake? There are some perceptions out there, three in particular, that I'm hearing constantly from clients and from candidates. And these perceptions are costing you and I a ton of money. And I'm hearing them at every single conference. I'm hearing them at every webinar I do, every time I'm doing it. I don't care where I'm at. This is what I'm hearing. And this is why I want to share this with you, because we have to change these. Clients feel like a source of revenue. They say, when I'm in front of corporate audiences, I was just at a CEO conference, and it was interesting because I'm in front of your end users trying to show them the value of using us. I think I can do you the best amount of service. I can serve you better by getting in front of your end users and telling them why you're great. And that's what I'm doing. And getting in front of, job seekers and telling them how they can properly utilize recruiters. One of my courses on LinkedIn is how do you use a recruiter? How do you find a recruiter to represent you? But when clients feel like a source of revenue, I always say, we want to partner with you. We want to be your sounding board. We are workplace experts. We don't just place people in jobs. And you know what I hear from them? Really? Well, the only time you people call us, and I love when they call us, you people call us, is when you're making money on us. That's the only time we hear from you. So how can you say you want to be a trusted advisor? You want to be a consultant? I point blank tell clients the first time I call a prospect, my goal is to become your friend. I know right now I may sound like other people that are calling you. I'll start out as a vendor, but then I want to quickly earn my way to be a trusted advisor, a consultant, and eventually I want you and I to be friends, because if I know what you're trying to achieve, I'll help you get there. My job is to make your job easier, make you look good, and also help you achieve the goals you're trying to achieve. If anybody that works for you or yourself, if you ever called a client and they're no longer there, and you didn't even know that they were looking for another job, you were a vendor. You were a vendor. Because if they trusted you, they would have told you they're leaving and they would have taken you with them. Do you know that probably 30% of my clients currently, I might be at the second, third company with them already, because every time they leave, they take us with them. And that's the way you know you're doing a job. But this is costing us money where they just feel like a source of revenue. And I want to ask you, do your clients right now, what is your out of office reading right now? You're on this webinar with me. Okay. Did you put an out of office message whenever you're training or whenever you're doing something that I'm not available for the next, I don't know, say hour or 2 hours. I'm not available right now because I'm actually attending a session to serve you better. I'm trying to learn more that I can do to serve you better, whether it's candidates or clients. And when you learn things, whether it's me or someone else that's training you, share it with your clients. If the only time your people or you call your clients is when you're making money off of them, you're proving them right. And that's what they say to me all the time. Really, Barb? Well, the only time we hear from you people is when you're making money on us. Many of you belong to associations. The websites are filled with information you can give to people. You've got to become an expert in your niche. As a leader, you've got to be part of the niche that you represent, and you've got to share what you're learning with all of your clients. And do you know your key accounts? I talked to an owner last week and I was amazed because his top producer will not let him talk to his clients. And I went, what? And he goes, my top producer has a very close relationship with, and he's got our top 4 clients. And, he doesn't want me interacting with the clients. I saw that as such a red flag because as an owner, you've got to know the key accounts of your company. You've got to know them. You've got to be meeting with them. You've got to be taking them out to dinner. You've got to be really, you've got to know your top key accounts. You don't want someone to leave and then the relationship that your person had with that account goes out the door when that person leaves you. It's your responsibility as an owner to drive your business. And you've got to know your key accounts. But again, if you don't know everything about them, I had so much fun in the last few, well, not really. I was having fun early in March Madness when Purdue was still in the running because my clients knew I was rooting for Purdue. I had Purdue in the Final Four, which I knew was probably ambitious, okay? But the minute they were knocked out by Houston, I got so many texts and emails. And it was a late game from everybody going, well, your team's out of it, Barb. Sorry, so long. It was just funny. But do you know that about your clients? Do you know what they enjoy? Do you know what they're following, what they read, what their hobbies are, what their likes and dislikes are? I'm a big basketball person and they know it. I'm also a big football person, which is painful because I'm a Chicago Bears fan. But do you know what teams your clients back? Do you know even what teams what are the people that work for you interested in? Because as an owner, if I'm going to inspire the people that work for me, I can't motivate them. I know for a fact that it's impossible to motivate someone who doesn't want to be motivated. We can't motivate the people that work for us. We can inspire them to achieve what they're trying to achieve for their own reasons. If you get up and say, we're going to have a record year, or we're going to do this, we're going to do that, they hear you saying things you're going to do to them, not for them. You've always got to frame things and how it benefits them. The other reality that we've got to change is candidates feel we only care about filling a job, not about what's important to them. I hear this all the time. I'm doing those job seeker calls once a month. I get on the phone and go, hi, welcome to the job seeker call. And I give them advice on career advancement and things. And they complain about recruiters all the time. And they are sick of being pitched jobs. When you pitch a job before you've had a conversation with the candidate, you've already lost your credibility. Now, does it work sometimes? Sometimes it may work. But often you're pitching a job that is nothing that would interest them. And when you say, I saw your LinkedIn profile, you're perfect for the job. Do you know what candidates say to me? We hate when recruiters tell us what's perfect for us. They don't know me. They don't know my goals and objectives. I don't want to do what I'm doing now. I hate my job. And then they present something identical or a step back from what I'm doing, and all they do is they have a list and I'm on the list and they're just going to call the list. And until somebody says yes, that's how they feel. That's how they feel. If you got your people just pitching jobs. In fact, it was interesting. I just wrote training on how to write in-mail that are answered. Over 80% of our in-mail are open, where the average right now is 15%. Do you know how many email are open? How many email are open? 12% of email are open, 12%. So in other words, 1 out of 10 email are open. And you know what it's based on? The subject line. The subject line is whether people open your email or not. You've got to know these things. You've got to, communication has really changed. Even texting, texting still is sometimes the quickest way to communicate with clients or candidates. But if it's the only way your team or you are communicating, you're really easy to be deleted. You're really easy to be deleted. And if they think they're a source of revenue or that you only care about filling jobs, believe me, they delete you without a second choice. And they think we're all alike. You and I are not alike. Just like all clients are not created equal, all candidates are not created equal, and all recruiting firms are not created equal. And I love when I go to court. I just got back from a CEO conference and they did that again. Well, you people, and I always tease, I go, you know what? We don't belong to the you people cult. We don't carry a you people card. We're all different. They go, no, you are. And if we ask you how you're different, you all say the same things. And I have to be honest with you, when I'm doing live events, I just got back from doing some in-house training for a very large IT contract staffing firm. And I asked their salespeople and their recruiters, okay, why should I use you? Give me your brand. Give me what's different about you than any other recruiter or any other salesperson out there. Why should I use you? And when I heard their answers, I felt just like a client or a candidate. They were all saying the same thing. Even when I said, don't say something that anybody in this room can say. Don't say anything that any of your competitors can say. And guess what? They all said the same things. I think you'd be shocked. After this training, go out to the people that work for you and say, I'm a client. I'm a potential client. Why should I use you as opposed to anybody else? What can you tell me that's different than anything anybody else can say? Or if I'm a candidate, why should I use you? Why should I send you my resume or CV? I think you're going to be shocked. People don't, they'll say, well, we specialize in a niche. We really vet candidates. We really represent the best clients. We thoroughly, everybody's saying that. That's not how you're different. What is your brand? Everybody has to know the brand, your track record of success. That's what people care about. Practice brands with your people. There is economic uncertainty, but even with the economic uncertainty, the job market flourished in March. Nobody expected that. Nobody expected that. Now, IT remained flat. IT remained a little flat, but they're still hiring. In fact, I'm doing some consulting for a very large company that hires IT, and they're hiring like crazy. They are hiring like crazy right now. So it depends on, what part of IT are you representing? What are the areas that are flourishing and what areas are kind of flat right now? Clients and candidates also have more choices, and they're extremely well networked. The biggest problem is most of your recruiters are sending candidates on one job. And if you only send a candidate on one job, they're going to go on other interviews on their own because they don't want to look at one thing, even if they're a recruited candidate. And so you have to change that. And clients don't want you to send 3 people at the beginning and end up with maybe 1 at the end. You've got to set a goal for your team to have 3 people in final interviews. Now, it takes some training for them to learn how to do that, but you have to have at least 2 or 3 openings for every candidate. When you book a candidate on an interview, you market them to get other interviews. And your clients, your goal should be 3 people in final interviews. Now, if you're doing high-level C-suite, that'll never be the case. If you're doing retained search, that'll never be the case. For those of you that are doing contingency, contract, you've got to do that. High volume, light industrial temp call center, that high volume, fast pace, not the case. But everything else, you have got to start sending candidates on multiple interviews and making sure that your clients have multiple people, in the final interviewing process. And something I want you to think about is we've become way too transactional, way too transactional. And your team has become way too transactional. And sometimes the owners I'm interacting with, I just did an owner retreat. And it was interesting. And when I was talking to the owners and really looking at what processes do they have in place or not, and what are they doing, they've become so transactional, there's almost no human element in it. And I'm telling you, our business has been, is, and always will be relationship building. Your people should be building their networks every single day. In fact, at this last CEO conference I just left, they go, when did you people stop recruiting? We can call 3 recruiting firms and we're going to get the same people from all of you because you're all posting jobs just like we are. And then when we tell you we've got them in our database, you get mad, but we just spent $3,600 running a job board ad and then we don't get what we want. So we call, staffing and recruiting firms, and they all send us the exact same people. We thought you had networks. We thought you're going to give us people that we can't get on our own. We want access to the passive candidates. And in LinkedIn's last number, when we were talking about what percentage of the job seekers out there are active, proactively conducting a search, and which ones are passive. These are people that are working, they're doing a great job, they're not necessarily conducting an active search, but they'll look at an opportunity if it means career advancement. 85%. So if you're posting jobs, you only have access to 15% of the workforce. 15%. And our clients don't want us to post jobs. They want us to network. They want us to give them candidates that they're not getting on their own. You don't need a bigger team. You need a better performing one. And hiring more people isn't the answer if your current team isn't maximizing their performance. We sell a training product where we sell seats. And so we noticed that in the first quarter of this year, we sold an overabundance of seats. And I was reaching out to some of the owners and I was saying, wow, I just noticed that you hired 10 people, you hired 6 people. Well, it's just not working, Barb. And I need to get new blood in here, and I need to do this and I need to do that. And I go, okay, let's talk about this. Let's talk about this. So often we think hiring people is the answer. Well, if your current team isn't maximizing their performance and you don't have systems in place that work, then hiring a new person is not setting them up for success. You're going to just have turnover. And our profession has tremendous turnover. And one thing I'm hearing from owners is it's so hard to find someone to work in your office. And it shouldn't be. It shouldn't be. If the people that work for you, I want you to think about this a moment. If the people that work for you love their job and they love you, are you doing stay interviews with your people? Because you should be. Why do they stay with you? Why are they enjoying their job? But if you've got a team that really enjoys working for you and they've been there a while, why are they not bringing people to you? Your next hire should be a referral from one of your current employees. Do you have an internal referral program for people that bring people to you? If you are hiring, your people know your culture. They know what you're looking for. And are you taking every sales call? I always take sales calls. I always meet with any salesperson that would walk in our office. Then the reason I do that is I want to hire experienced salespeople. And so even if I don't have an opening, if I come across a top salesperson, a high performer, I'm going to create a job for them because they're going to pay for themselves. If I hire someone with a track record of success, and that's who you should be hiring. You should be hiring high achievers that have a track record of success. You don't make somebody a top producer, you hire them. But you can improve everybody's production that works for you if you have the right systems in place. But as an owner, you can't look at the last quarter and go, we just have to work harder. You have to make more phone calls. That's not the answer. If they make more calls and they're not the right calls, if they're pitching jobs, if they're only talking to your clients when they're making money, that's why it's not working. You've got to change some things. Have you done revenue modeling? That is one of the most important things you need to do as an owner, and you should do this every 6 months. And then once you do revenue modeling and you determine what your best business model is, what is your best business model? Where are you making the most profits? What is that business that they should be bringing in? Because you should be directing your sales team what kind of business to bring in, and you should be directing your recruiters on what candidates to pipeline in advance. I'm going to share a story with you right now because I love the story and I'm still interacting with this owner. I had an owner come up to me at a conference, God, now it's been 4 or 5 years ago. And he was at $10 million and he did IT contract staffing. And he wanted to get to $20 million because he wanted to sell his firm. And he knew that if he got to the $20 million mark, that he would just get much more money. And so he wanted to get his business at 20 million. And for 3 or 4 years, he had tried to, get off that 10 million mark. And he said, 1 year I went down to 9 because I changed too much. And then I went up to 11. The highest I ever did, Barb, was 11 too. He goes, and then we went back. We're averaging 10 for the last 4 years. Can you get me to 20 million? And I said, I have no idea. I don't know you. I don't know your business. I would never say yes, but why don't you buy one consulting call and let's see. And the first thing I gave him, and I'm going to give you some free consulting right now. I said to him, how many titles do you place? And he said, I have no clue. And I said, well, why don't you go back and look? And so he went back and he came back to me and he said, we placed 59 titles. And I go, 59? And I go, okay, I didn't ask you how many titles you're writing, how many are you filling? He goes, Barb, we're filling 59 titles. That's what I asked, I asked, and these are the numbers in our ATS. This is what we're doing. And I go, no, you're not. I would bet you money that 75% of your revenue is coming from under 10 titles. And he goes, you're wrong. And I said, how about this? I'll give you a free hour of consulting if I'm wrong. And he came back. It took him almost 2 weeks. He came back and he goes, you're not going to believe this. And I'm like, what? He goes, Barb, 81% of our income comes from 6 titles. 81% of our revenue comes from 6 titles. And I go, and what percentage of those 6 titles are you filling? And he goes, 100%. It's 81% of my revenue. I go, no, you're not. No, you're not, because you're working on 59 titles. And so even those 6 titles are the main thing you do, you're not filling 100%. And then go back and see what percentage of those you're filling. It was under 30%. And so we just revamped his whole business, and we really put the focus on the 6 titles. And he did have a different division that was, funneling to his VMS accounts, because on a VMS account, to keep the report card up, he had to work, other titles, not just those 6 titles. But guess what? When those 6 titles were given to him by the VMS firms, he filled almost every one of them. The good news is you're the leader. And when you align the activity of your salespeople and your recruiters to what's working right now, that's when you see immediate results. But you've got to conduct revenue modeling. And if you've got a blended firm, you've got to do separate revenue modeling for your, for your direct hire business as well as your flexible staffing business, because revenue modeling is very different in both of those models. So you've got to conduct it for both. So now I'm going to give you some key takeaways, because I want you to leave this call feeling very good about the time you've just spent with me. I want to make this call worth it for everybody here. Focus on revenue producing activities and reflect today's buying behaviors. So during prime time is when your team needs to be reaching out. Are they aware that between 9 and 11:30 and 1:30 and 4 is when they should be reaching out to people? And I'm going to share another thing with you. I did in-house training again for this large firm, and I asked him to have his recruiters doing a recruiting blitz so I could hear what they were doing, hear how they were reaching out. And all I heard was click, 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 click. Click, click, click. For like 40 minutes, I didn't hear anybody picking up the phone. So I walked into the owner and I said, I'm sorry, did you tell your recruiting team that I was going to be critiquing? They were going to do a recruiting blitz. And he said, well, they are. And I pulled him out of his office and I said, listen to this. I go, do you hear anybody talking? And he goes, no. And so he stopped everybody. He said, I want your attention. And I said, I think what they're doing is they're sending in mail on LinkedIn and they think that's recruiting. And he goes, Barbara, that's not recruiting. I go, well, I don't know that your people know that. And that's exactly what they were doing. They were reaching out on LinkedIn, sending in mail during prime time. That's not prime time activity. That is not prime time activity. Do they even know what activity is closest to the money? I'm learning that many people in our profession right now do not know how to smell money. They're busy, but working hard doesn't equate to attaining or surpassing goals every month. Knowing where to put your efforts, focusing on results-oriented activity during prime time is what makes all the difference in the world. And again, I also ask them, how many of you are talking to people when they could talk? If you're doing IT, often they can't talk during the day. In fact, I was just at an IT conference recently and they said, you people are so stupid. You call us during the day. My boss is sitting next to me, my coworkers all around me, and you're pitching a job to me that, by the way, I would not be interested in at all. But then we kind of make fun of you and blow you off. And guess what? I'm open to look for a job. When I ask the audience, how many of you would change jobs right now if it meant career advancement? I would say 95% of the hands went up. So most people out there would listen to a job if it meant their next move. But how can you even pitch a job when you don't know what they want to do next? Since COVID, people are changing industries, people are changing professions. It's amazing how much they're changing. And have you taught your recruiters how to identify transferable skills? Are your recruiters and your salespeople teaching clients how to recognize transferable skills? Because people are changing industries. One of the first courses I did for LinkedIn Learning during COVID, they called me and said, Barb, can you do a course from home and teaching people how to identify transferable skills? Because we have over 20,000 requests. 20,000 requests, because people were so panicky during COVID, they wanted to see how to recognize transferable skills. But you got to be doing that now. And again, you've got to position job opportunities as career advancement and stop pitching jobs. And for those of you that know me, and I know a lot of you do, I don't think you'd ever hear these words out of my mouth. I want you and your teams to slow down. Slow down. We're working so fast. We're like little hamsters on a wheel and think if we're busy, we're going to make more money. You got to slow down and stop making cold calls. Make warm prepared calls. I get calls from recruiters every day trying to recruit me or ask if they can do business with my company. Shows me they did no research whatsoever. No research whatsoever. You can't pitch a job until you ask the person, if you do post an ad and somebody answers an ad, do not just do that interview thinking about that job. Say, you know what? I know you answered this job posting, but what I want to do right now is find out what's most important to you to make sure that job is really a fit for you. Because I've got so many different opportunities. That's just a sampling of what I've got. I would love to hear what's most important to you, what you see as your next move, and also where do you want to be in 3 years or 5 years? Let's position you now to achieve not only your short-term goals, but your long-term goals. We're not positioning ourselves as career agents. That's why they think all we want to do is fill a job. They've got to view us as a lifetime career agent. Redeployment of contractors and temporary workers is ridiculous right now. It's under 15%. And I know some firms that have redeployment of less than 5% because they're not doing the job. The candidate experience is not positive. And the candidates know you make money for every hour they work. And if you're not keeping in touch, if you're not nurturing, we really drop the ball after we put people on jobs. It's like we fill a job next, we fill a job next. We're not nurturing those candidates, or we're not calling those clients to see how they're doing. You've got to align your messaging with candidate client expectations in today's marketplace. People, and again, you might say, well, they won't take our calls. They won't take your calls if they don't think you can benefit them. They take your calls when they know you can benefit them. We talk to people all day long because they know that we've got their interests at heart. And if you think you've got good relationships with your clients and candidates, here's how you can tell. Are 40% of your new clients and 40% of the candidates you place in jobs referrals? It's a really easy question. Are 40% of your new clients and 40% of the candidates you place in job referrals? If they're not, then you are not nurturing your clients and candidates. You are merely a source of revenue, your clients are really a source of revenue to you, and you're just filling jobs. 40% of your placed candidates and new clients should be referrals, and you have to have a very strong candidate and client referral program. I'm shocked when I see the companies don't have a client referral program. Every one of your clients knows somebody else that can hire from you. There's probably people within their own company, a sister company, a parent company that could hire from you, but they're not referring them because they don't see how they're going to benefit by it. You have to have a client referral program in place and show them how they benefit. They've got to benefit by sending referrals to you. And you've got to stress personal and professional growth and company culture. Candidates right now, when you look at Gen Z and the millennials, they're all about personal and professional development and the company culture. They will take a job for less money if there is personal and professional development and they like the culture they're working in. I was at a staffing firm recently, and I'll give you another example. And this was at the beginning of the year. I was doing an annual kickoff for them. They have I don't know, 70 offices. And so I was doing a kickoff at their corporate event. And it was interesting because they had everybody there, and every morning there was a handful of people that would just kind of walk in at 9, 9:15, 9:30 with their Starbucks. Now, we were starting training at 8 a.m. And and everybody would roll their eyes, and everybody would roll their eyes. Then there'd be a few others that would show up at 10 o'clock, with their coffee in hand, so nobody was rushing. And it wasn't like they were walking in and saying, I'm sorry, I'm late, I got caught in traffic. They just kind of slowly walked in the room. Everybody heard them, they sat down, didn't apologize, anything. And so when I got done, at lunchtime, I said to the owner, okay, I have to ask you, because you had several people that walked in here late, and didn't think anything of it. And he goes, I know. And he goes, but Barb, that group right there represents probably 40% of my revenue. And he goes, they just can never be here on time. And he goes, and it's really causing a problem with my tenured staff that gets here at 7:30 or 8 o'clock in the morning. And I said, well, then what are you going to do about it? And he goes, I can't do anything about it. And I go, well, you're going to lose some of your tenured staff because they feel you're favoring these people that just think they can walk in here whenever. I go, do you have your morning meetings? And he goes, I do, but they miss them. And I go, and so you're just going to ignore this? I go, why don't you have varied hours? He goes, what are you talking about? I go, why don't you have 8 to 5 and then have 9 to 6 or 10 to 7. And he goes, I can't do that. I need people here at 8. I go, trust me, not everybody's going to want to start at 9 or 10. They don't want to get off work at 6 or 7 at night. And I go, and if I might, say this, I have a feeling that if they get in at 10 o'clock, they're not going to leave at 7. They'll be here at 8 or 9 o'clock at night. They're just going to be hanging out and having a good time because they're not morning people. And I said, so why don't you just put that out there and see what happens? Well, it was interesting. Nobody took the 9 to 6. People were working 8 to 5 and 10 to 7. But guess what? He had coverage from 8 to 7. And he's told me over and over again, he goes, Barb, it's amazing. I'm getting email from them and text from them at 9 and 10 o'clock at night. And he goes, it made all the difference in the world. And he had to change his meeting schedule. So now meetings were held midday. So everybody was at the meetings. So, what about your company culture? When you say it's hard to keep people, hard to hire people, are you making adjustments? Are you giving this kind of advice to your clients? Do they have this kind of problem? See, if you're a workplace expert, if you're really getting to know your clients and your key accounts, you've got to know everything personal about them. Are they married? Are they single? Where did they go to school? What teams do they back? What sports do they like? What hobbies do they have? I don't care if they're a bird watcher. You got to really get into bird watching or ask them about it at least. Let them talk about what they enjoy doing. No one has sounding boards. And if you become a sounding board for your clients, they'll take you wherever they go and then eventually become friends with them. Key takeaway number 2 is identify and overcome barriers to success. Stop writing and working unfillable business. As an owner, I'm guilty of this too. I will tell my sales team, I want you to write a minimum of 3 orders a week. Well, I changed that. And I now say, I want you to write a minimum of 3 fillable orders. And this is a criteria for a fillable order. And I don't want them just writing business to hit a stupid number that I come up with as an owner. Because what happens is they come in, and if your salespeople bring business in and your recruiters roll their eyes, like direct hire firms, most of you work a full desk. Some of you have some people that are just recruiting, but on the contract and temporary side, it's split. And if you've got salespeople bringing business in and your recruiters have no idea what the business is, they don't understand it, it's a purple squirrel, it's mission impossible, they're not going to work it. Your recruiters are going to work business where they can make money. If you don't have enough business, then they're going to start working this unfillable business. So now you wasted the time of your salespeople and of your recruiters trying to fill something that should have never been written. You should be getting 3 sales leads daily from your recruiters. Your recruiters are tripping over sales leads daily. I did a conference exactly 1 year ago. In fact, it was last March. It was a little over a year ago. I did a conference for a franchise group, and I said, you should be getting 3 sales leads daily from recruiters. And they go, we don't get any, and how can they get leads? And so I changed what I was doing at their meeting, and I showed them how to do it. And now they are hiring people to strictly do more of the recruiting side because they're getting so many sales leads from their recruiters. If you want to go into a new niche, if you're worried that the niche you're in, like you might be looking at a new niche, you want to jumpstart a new niche, it all starts on the recruiting side. In fact, I've got a program that I rolled out years ago. How do you jumpstart a new niche? Because so many people, it's a year, 2 years before they're profitable. And I take brand new people that want to get into our business and show them how to open a staffing and recruiting firm. And they're up and running within 4 months, not knowing anything about this. So if you've got a firm and you need to open a new niche, the key is getting the sales leads from your recruiters. Ensure that your salespeople, and this isn't all the criteria of a fillable job order, but are they getting performance objectives? When we started getting performance objectives, our job order to fill ratio and contract to fill ratio went down from 3 and 4 to 1 to 2 and 1 to 1. We're now filling 1 out of every 2 openings we work, and we're actually 1.5. So we're filling the majority of the orders that we're writing and the contracts we're writing because now we know what the client really wants. You have got to get 5 performance objectives because what performance objectives do, and if you don't change anything as a result of this call, performance objectives are a game changer. They absolutely changed the game for us 15 years ago. It was amazing what it did to our bottom line. And every firm that is doing this now, they're seeing a remarkable change because guess what? It eliminates that long laundry list of skill sets that they give us and they screen candidates out on. When you get performance objectives, have them get interview times, percentages, what percentage of the time are the candidate's going to do what? Don't just give a job description, a contract. What percentage of the time are they doing what? If a specific task of a job is 10%, that's a much different job than if that task was 90% of the job. So have your salespeople write what percentage of the time are these candidates going to spend doing what on this job, because that makes matching easy even for rookies, because they should be using percentages when they interview. And it just makes matching a no-brainer. And what's the target date to fill? I want you to go back after this call and look at all your business. Does it all say ASAP, immediately, or yesterday? It sure does. And it shouldn't, because that's not when they're going to fill it. You want to know what your hot business is. Your hot business is when you've got interviewing times and you've got a target date to fill. You know what problem exists as a result of the job being open. You've got to teach your recruiters how to proactively recruit and stop posting and praying. Post and praying is not recruiters. I compare recruiters to goldfish or sharks. And unfortunately, many recruiters out there right now are goldfish. They're sitting in a bowl waiting to be fed. They want you to buy more tools. They want you to give more, spend more on job board ads and all this type of thing. That doesn't work anymore. Why are all the job board companies in different businesses right now? Why are they opening ATS companies? And why is Monster doing so much with the military? And that, because they know that job boards are not producing that 85% of passive candidates that they want to hire. Posting and praying. I'm not saying you're never going to hire somebody if you post a job, but you got to start building networks. Your recruiters should increase their network every single day. We have a database of every person we ever checked a reference for. Every reference we've ever called, we put them in a database, because we know those people we're calling for references, those are people that are either going to become a future client or candidate. We know that. And so every time we check a reference, we say, by the way, we send out an article of interest on career advancement, once every other month. Would love to put you on our list so you can get that information as well. Can you give us your personal email address? And I can't tell you how much that database of everybody we checked a reference on, how that database has paid off for us. And if you're not checking references, if you're sitting there going, well, we don't even check references, why not? Because converting reference checks to a marketing call is one of the fastest ways to land new clients. If you do not have, a strong order, contract, assignment flow right now, then everybody should be checking 9 references a day. That will make all the difference in the world, and you're going to start writing a business when you convert those to marketing calls. And teach your people how to do that, and change your messaging. We've got to quit talking about what we do. They don't care what we do. They don't care what we want. They don't care about you and me. The truth of the matter is they don't. And when I'm in front of corporate offices, I always tease them, you don't care about me. You just care about, what I can do for you. They go, you're absolutely right, Barb. You're absolutely right. They don't care about us. They don't care about what we want. They don't care what our clients want. All they care about is, if I talk to you, how's it going to benefit me? If I use you, how's it going to benefit me? So whenever you're talking to a client, a prospect, a candidate, when you're talking to your employees, when you're trying to make changes, don't get off this call and go, we're going to change all these things. Pick 1 or 2 things and then break it down and show them how to do it. You can't just tell them what to do. You've got to give them a step-by-step how to do it. My people used to hate when I went to conventions, because I would come back and try to change too much. But you've got to change your messaging and make sure that everyone understands how they can benefit every time you reach out to them. It's all focused on them, not on what you and I need. You've got to elevate your current team's success. You've already hired them. Help them achieve or surpass their goals. Don't give up on your people. If you're not changing things you're doing as a leader, you can't point the finger at your people. If you haven't revamped the way that they're recruiting, the way that they're selling, the way that they're writing InMail, the way that they're doing email, if you haven't taught them what kind of email messages are open, if you haven't taught them to get performance objectives, then you can't blame them. Give them the tools they need, and have them post. If you don't know what your team is trying to achieve this year, we're already 1 quarter in, so have them post 7 goals for the rest of the year in all areas of their life. What do you want to achieve? Have them at the end of the 1st quarter, good time to have this meeting. I want to meet with you and find out, what are you trying to achieve this year in all areas of your life? What's important to you? Obviously you want it to be career, finance, but is it personal? Is it health? Is it philanthropic, spiritual? What is it? What are they trying to do? Educational. What do they want to do? What are their goals? And under each goal, have them write down 5 dated action items. The dated action items are the steps to attain the goals. and post them. If you could see where I'm sitting right now, I have 3 monitors on my desk, but to the right-hand side, I have this bookcase around my desk, and I've got my 10 non-negotiable goals with my 5 dated action items under each of them, and I have 4 goals already achieved for this year out of the 10, and I've got a lot of the other steps achieved because the steps, the 5 dated action items are the steps to achieve the goal. If they can't break the goal down into 5 steps and date them, then the goal is too big. It should be 2 goals. But you want to motivate your people, see what they're trying to achieve for themselves and the people they love, and run your contest so they can achieve some of those. And do you know their income goals? What do they want to earn by the end of this year? If you don't know that, then the goals you're setting for them every month they're just numbers. It's not something they really think they're going to do. And look at your sales process, look at your recruiting process, what's working and what's not working. What worked for us pre-COVID is antiquated right now. What worked for us 2 years ago doesn't work right now. The workforce and workplace has changed dramatically. You've got to have a process. You can't have everybody shooting from the hip. Are they asking the same general interviewing questions? Do they ask the questions where they know how to close the candidate? What do they do when they've got somebody in front of them that they know they can't help? Does that candidate have a great experience where they still give you referrals? And do you tell them what they need to do to become marketable? And I hope to God that you are tracking KPIs. What are your key performance indicators? You have got to know the stats and ratios for every person that works for you. If you're not managing by numbers, you're managing by emotion. Everybody working for you has to know their numbers. How else can you tell them what results you need every day? It's not numbers of calls. In fact, it's funny. One of my newest clients, he makes his people make 50 calls a day, and they're not doing well. They haven't done well this first quarter. He's a new client. And I said, okay, 50 calls. I bet they're calling dial a prayer and weather and everything else. Because if they make 50 calls a day, he gives them a $10 bonus, cash, at the end of the day. And I said, so all they're doing is trying to earn $10 cash by showing you they're making 50 calls. If my people told me they made 50 calls a day, I would say stop, because you're not having any conversations. You're just leaving voicemail. I go, no, it's not the numbers of calls. It's, if I'm a recruiter, how many interviews do I have to do a day? If I know I need to do 3 interviews a day, then I make as many recruiting calls as I have to make till I book 5 a day, or 4 or 5 a day, because somebody's going to no-show. But at the end of this week, I'm going to do 15 interviews because those are my numbers. If I do 2 today, and I know I'm supposed to do 3 a day, I have to do 4 tomorrow. But at the end of the week, that's what your people have to know. You've got to guide them. Not only do you have to tell your salespeople what kind of business to write and your recruiters who to pipeline, but you've got to tell them how many interviews they need to do. How many marketing calls do they make before they write a piece of business? Where are your salespeople more successful? Is it getting face-to-face with clients? Is it marketing candidates? Is it converting reference checks into marketing calls? Is it getting referrals from their current clients? You've got to know that, because then that drives accountability. And then you as the owner, you really feel empowered. You know exactly what to tell them to do in order to produce what you need them to produce, not only this month, but consistently. And are you conducting weekly reviews? At the end of every week, you need to have everybody that works for you review their week, because it's okay if somebody's had a crappy week, but you don't want somebody to get into a slump. Like again, this owner I talked to this morning, he goes, our office has been in a slump for a quarter. And I go, the entire quarter? And I go, what changes did you make like throughout this slide? He goes, I didn't know what to do, Barb. It's just like it's the economy. I go, no, it's not. As the owner, do you think it's the economy? He goes, I do. I go, therein lies the problem. And weekly reviews, really should be, what did we do right? How are we wasting time? And what new idea are we implementing every week? And every week you ask yourselves those questions so you can hold yourself accountable every week. That way you might have a bad week, you'll never have a bad month or a bad year. And I want you to answer every question your people ask you with the same answer. And again, I love when I reveal my faults. When I was an early owner, of a staffing and recruiting firm, I remember I always have a coach. I always have somebody. I have a coach right now. I always have somebody that I'm going to make me better, because I just think I need to do that. If I'm going to coach you and I'm going to be out there training, then I have to look at all the newest tools. I have to keep learning. Why do I do training for LinkedIn? Because LinkedIn really challenges me. I mean, they really challenge me. To come up with the newest information for them. And I've got access to their big data, which of course helps me. But I remember complaining early in my career, oh my God, I feel like my people are connected to me by an umbilical cord. Like they can't think for themselves. It's ridiculous. And the coach looked at me and he goes, Barb. And I go, what? He goes, let me ask you a question. When your people come to you with a question, what do? I go, I give them an answer. I'm helping them. And he goes, what if somebody was closing a deal and it was going south? You knew it was going, I go, I would just jump right in. And they go, and you would close it for them, correct? I go, yes, I would. And I'd have them listen to me to see what I was doing. And he goes, so you created those umbilical cords. And I go, what are you talking about? And he goes, you want your people to be smarter than you, better than you, faster than you, coming up with ideas you've never thought of. And he goes, and they're never going to do that if they're using your brain. You can't be the brain of your business. If you are the brain of your business, you're not a business owner. You bought yourself a job. If you can't leave your company and it doesn't run without you, all you did was buy yourself a job. You know, if you're an owner of a company, your company has to run without you. And so I want you to answer every question with the same answer. I go, well, that's impossible. And he goes, no, here's the answer. When somebody asks you a question from now on, starting today, those of you that are owners, managers, you're in leadership, when someone asks you a question, this is the answer you're going to give them. What is your solution? What is your solution? Because usually it's the lowest producer in your company that asks you the most questions. It's easier to ask you a question than it is to go figure something out by themselves. It's easier to ask you a question than to figure it out themselves. When they know you're going to say, what's your solution? They stop coming to you with questions, or they're going to come up, they know you're going to ask them a solution. So now they have to think of the solution. Sometimes you'll agree, sometimes you'll disagree, but now you're helping them grow. And you've got to leverage AI. I'm not going to spend a whole lot of time on this area because what this is really doing is it's making us faster. It's eliminating repetitive tasks. It's not replacing us. And so many free tools. So many free tools. I had somebody yesterday call me and they wanted me to teach their team how to write Boolean strings. And I go, why are you hiring me to teach your team how to write Boolean strings when there's free tools out there that'll write them for you? And they go, you've got to be kidding me. I go, no, there's free tools. You do not need me. You know, AI is just going to make us better. It's going to make us better, but and faster. And by the way, most of your ATS systems have AI. Don't go out there and purchase a bunch of new things. Go to your ATS provider and ask them, or your CRM provider, and ask them what tools you already own, because they all have AI capabilities. Every one of them do. So start there. And then if your people really wanted to use a tool that's not in your ATS, just have them use the free versions of like a Chat GPT or something to just review their email templates and that to make them sound better. You know, don't invest all this money when your ATS systems probably have functions you're not even using, and we're out there looking for, looking for better tools. Key takeaway number 5 is you've got to empower your team for long-term success. You know, you've got to upgrade your outdated training with step-by-step processes that are relevant and current. You've got to use systems. Your office should be like a franchise. Imagine someone came to you today and said, I'm going to give you $10 million and I want you to open 4 offices. Could you do it? Could you repeat it? We've got to be like a McDonald's where everybody, packages things the same way, the same pricing, the same everything. You've got to use proven systems to increase placements, fills, and profits. And you've got to provide ongoing learning, and again, for sustainable growth, your people have to continue to learn. Our people are no different than the people you're placing with your companies. They want to grow professionally and personally. They want to grow, they want to learn things. And you've got to become much more aware of the decisions that are made, the actions that are taken, and the results that are achieved. If you don't like the results that you're getting, the results that your people are getting, you've got to make different decisions and take different actions. It's as simple as that. It's not enough to just want. Everybody wants different things, but they're not making different decisions. I would love for all of you to get off this call, and I want you all to make yourself uncomfortable at least once a day going forward for the rest of this year. Do something every day that makes you totally uncomfortable because you're trying something new. That's when you know you're not living in your comfort zone, which is where most people learn. Now, I do have a solution for training. I've given you a lot of free training so far. I've told you a lot of things you could do on your own. But our tutors are self-paced, structured, interactive, and proven to work. I have people say all the time, I wish you could be in my office, Barb. I wish I could clone you. I wish I could be you. I wish I could train like you. Most owners and managers, training is not best use of your time. It wasn't best use of my time. When I had my office, I wouldn't hire when I was at conferences and that because I couldn't train. And so I found myself, I've got to do something online that is going to train my people for me. I rewrote all my tutors. I rewrote them this past year because so much has changed. I never thought I would have to rewrite all my training, and I did. And it was okay. It took me 10 months, and I was in a studio because guess what? I also had to offer video options because our employees don't want to read. And so they can watch videos. They pretend it's a YouTube video and they can watch videos to learn. Each tutor is self-paced. Every 5 days they're tested. All my scripts, all my forms, all best practices. They have 6 live calls with me every month where they can ask me questions. There's a library of 100 recorded training sessions just like this one. And by the way, 1 call a month. If you want to be trained by me, if you buy one of my tutors, 1 call a month, the first Wednesday of every month, I'm training owners and managers, and you're going to hear questions that other owners or managers are asking me that are going to help you grow. And I do 1 coaching call for owner managers a month, and I do 1 training call for owner managers every month. And so this helps you. The results speak for themselves. 100% of my tutor clients increase sales. So these tutors are for firms ready to grow now. I mean, it is the quickest solution if you don't have time to do this. And I broke them down. So it depends on who you are and what you do. If you want to spot train, like I have a direct hire recruiter, direct hire client development, and you can scan this code, and I'm going to go through a couple more slides and give you the code again, or you can call us directly at that number to talk to one of my representatives. You know what? We have so many different training options, not just our tutors. I always mention the tutor because this is my brain dump. This is everything I know, and I constantly upgrade it because every week I'm doing live training, and my clients tell me what they want to learn. So the live calls I do, I get those topics from you. And that's why this is my premier product, because it's my brain dump and I upgrade it every single week. And so that's why I really believe in this. But again, you can't control the economy. You can't control your clients or your candidates, but you can control how your team performs and how prepared you are for what's next. And not only do I train, but I keep you updated on every trend out there. Everything I'm learning, I share with you. You want this year to be your best year ever? Let's do it together. And so we do a discovery call. Again, you could scan that QR code, talk to one of the people that work for me. We may be your solution, we may not be, but you're going to benefit from the call, because whether you invest in our products or not, we're going to listen to your challenges and give you some more advice. And so the call will definitely be worth your time. And also mention you were on this call and you will get a discount on any training product that you buy. So you can call our office. There's a number to the office. You've got the QR code there. Please reach out to us. Again, I've shared a lot with you today. It wasn't theory. It was proven strategies that are working. But the best result comes when your team implements strategies consistently with the right tools. If you want me in your office, using my tutor is like you hiring me to be your trainer. I become their mentor. And by the way, we support it. So if they've got a question on the training, they don't come to you. There's instant messaging. They ask us. That's why our online tutor exists. Whether you're struggling or scaling, we're going to meet you where you are. Let us future-proof your firm with training that drives action and delivers a strong ROI. If you're serious about growth, I invite you to take the next step. And again, this is a quick, no pressure discovery call with Jody, or call our office and mention today's session. Make sure you mention today's session to obtain a discount. Now, I know we've gone a little over the hour. Does anybody have any questions they'd like to ask me? You can go to the control panel on the right, and under the names you see attendees. If you want to talk to me, see that little hand? If you click on that little hand, see, I see somebody type. You can either click on that hand and I can unmute your lines, or somebody asked me a question below. Let me go here. Let's see. How do you advise on how to prospect? Let's see. How do you use AI for client messaging? Again, client messaging, it's if you're going to use AI, you can template your messaging, Heidi, and at the same time they think it's personalized, because the tools will personalize it. It sounds like you. When it comes to prospecting on LinkedIn versus selling a job, what you're selling, Lisa, is you're selling your ability to help people advance in their career. I helped 17 people with experience just like you advance in their career in the last 90 days. I'd love to know what you want to do next. So you're proposing a discussion, not pitching a job. I'm in IT. I want to look at another niche. Can you help me? Yes, we've got a Jumpstart program that's step by step how you open a new niche, and it'll walk you through. And our tutors, by the way, that program is in every single tutor. If you buy any of our tutors, that Jumpstart program is in there. So that will help you. We go step by step how you can do it. How long is the discount good for? We'll probably run the discount through the end of this month. So if you're interested, just, reach out to Jody, and you'll get special pricing that you won't get online. But again, I know for a fact that I can help your people, and I know that I can help you increase your profits and sales. There's not a doubt in my mind, because I've done it for so many firms, and I would love to do it for you. But the only way I can do that is if you're part of our program, you know. And again, we do customized webinars, we do so many different things, but the tutor is the best return on investment. You get so much, and once you own it, it costs you $50 to put a person through it, and they have our tutor training for as long as they work for you. So once you own a tutor, it costs you $50, one-time charge of $50. They've got access to live calls, our library, the tutor, all our forms, everything, once you invest in the tutor. And so tell me what it's costing you now to train a person, where once you own our tutor, it would cost you a total of $50 for every person you put through our tutor. All right, I'm way over time, and I know a lot of you are thanking me. You're very, very welcome. Please schedule a call with Jody, or call our office and get some more information. I would love nothing more than to help you grow your business. So thanks so much for joining me. You guys have been great. I really appreciate all of you for being here. And I'm going to continue doing, special calls like this. So watch for announcements on any calls that I do. Thanks so much.